That completes that question. Audience question 4 will be next, and Nanette will be first up.
Hi, I'm Monique Esson. I attended the Environmental Impact Report scoping meeting, and one of the things I learned there is that the EIR is based entirely on EMB's proposal. So one of the questions I asked was, what if they deviate from their proposal? And I learned from the gentleman who is in charge of the EIR that that is entirely up to the city of Hermosa Beach if oil comes here. So my question to you as potential city council candidates is, how does this city go about ensuring that EMB doesn't deviate from its proposal if oil comes here? I'd like to know if you've looked into what other cities do to ensure compliance, or what you plan to do if you've thought about it. Because I think it's always easy to say one thing and do another, and we are the only safeguard against any kind of deviation that wasn't included in an environmental impact report.
Thanks. Nanette?
That's a great question. A lot of people have been talking about this, and they say, well, geez, what's going to happen if this measure passes, and who's going to be there to do oversight? And it's hard to say. One is because the way the settlements agreement is structured, so much of our power has been given away. But if I'm elected to the city council, I guarantee you, I pledge to you that I am going to be vigilant. And I'm going to be the person that's going to be holding the feet to the fire to the oil company and making sure they do everything they say they're going to do in the settlement agreement. Having vocal members of the council that are going to be vigilant and watch out to make sure everything is being done, to make sure that everything is being followed is going to be key. If it's not, that's something we're going to have to talk with our city attorney about and say what can be done. This is not being followed. I have not looked into what other cities have done, but I think that is something that, you know, having somebody vigilant and having really the power of the voice and the power of having the city attorney to help us out in following to make sure everything is being done is going to be key.
Thanks, Nanette. John?
Yes, exactly. I mean, if the voters of the city of Hermosa Beach decide that they want oil, then it is the job of this council and the city to make sure that everybody abides by the agreement that was approved. Now, I'm one of the few people, well, I'm one of the people up here that's not an attorney or doesn't have legal background, but I learned through my 8 years on the council that that is why we have a city attorney. And I can't give you a definitive legal answer, but I'm sure that he will be the first person I'm talking to if I found for any reason that anybody has deviated from any agreement that they've made with our city.
Thanks, John. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm not an attorney either, but I've hired them. I would answer your question as best I can as the person representing the city up here. First of all, this concept of deviating from their plan submitted, they really can't, because their plan is married to the CUP, the conditional use permit, that's what they purchased from McPherson. So that's the plan they have. So it's not likely that they would deviate from their plan, the plan that you're seeing, if that helps you. But to the bigger question about this process, and when does this input that we're all you folks have been giving, and in the meetings you've been attending, and the studies that are underway, when does it all come to fruition? It really does have to do with the choices you make up here tonight, the council members you choose. Because once the environmental impact report is completed and certified, before it goes on the ballot, there has to be a development plan. The development plan will be where those changes or accommodations are made. It's still not determined how that process is going to be unfolding, but clearly that is a time where council will play a role in terms of what they're doing to change their plan. So I hope that helps. I know it's incredibly confusing. It makes my head hurt just thinking about it sometimes. So I'm hoping that helps. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Carolyn?
Monique, for a project of this magnitude, I would envision that we would probably have people on staff who are experts in the field. It would be another department within the city. So right now we have public works, we have planning. In my mind, if we want to safeguard interests, we need to have people who are experts in the field on staff, and it really goes to project management. And I can't imagine having a project of this size, not having people employed by us as being part of this whole process. So it would just have to be part of the overall cost consideration. There is just, and I wouldn't even call them consultants. It would have to be our employees. And I think if you look at other cities where they have had oil projects, they do have people on staff who actually manage it. So I could never even imagine just stepping back and just saying, well, I'm sure you'll follow what you agree to follow. I mean, it really just comes down to project management.
Thanks, Carolyn. Haney?
Thanks, Monique, for the question. I think one of the concerns and the issues that we have is the settlement agreement as it stands does not give us a whole lot of audit mechanism and powers. So basically, we have to create our own power, oversight power, to make sure that E&B is doing what they need to do if the old proposal is voted yes. Obviously, my hope that it doesn't get voted no, but if it does and we have to go through this process, then one thing that I think that is worth noting for everybody is we can't, unfortunately, trust them to do exactly what they're supposed to do and to follow the regulations, and we have, unfortunately, a very vivid example of that. They basically gave a proposal to go into the city yard to do some groundwater monitoring and sampling and install some wells. They went and installed some wells, and it's a very basic concept when you install groundwater monitoring wells. I've done this for 10 years. You have to go to the county and get a well permit to make sure that you're doing it according to the regulations, and ENB's consultant did not do that. And if it wasn't for Keep Hermosa digging through and finding out from the county that no permit was pulled, nobody would have found out. Nobody in the city knew. Nobody at E&B informed us. And basically, it was, again, Keep Hermosa going to the county and basically pointing this issue, and the county ended up issuing a notice of violation to the city, to E&B, and to their consultant. So the short answer to the question is we can't trust them, so we need to have our own experts. On the issue of who can oversight, I think my recommendation would be, again, doing this for 10 years, is we need an actual consultant to do this. I don't mean any disrespect to our city staff, but they don't have the experience to be overseeing a project like this. I don't think anybody in the city staff knew that they had to get a permit, because I don't think the city has ever installed a groundwater monitoring well in the city before, because we don't have contaminated properties all over the city. So I think it's something that needs to be done by an environmental consultant. That's what they do for a living, that unfortunately the city would have to oversee. And my other last recommendation that we would do, again, in the unfortunate event that this gets approved, is that maybe at the beginning stages of this, if it proceeds, is to have it on the agenda, on the city council agenda, on a monthly basis, just like our city manager does now as it gives us an update, is to get on the agenda on a monthly basis to require E&B to come in and provide an update, both E&B and the consultant that the city hires, to provide an update and allow the citizens to hear what's going on and allow them to also address any issues that they're observing in the city.
Thanks, Haney. Greg?
Thank you. As I understand the question, it was whether or not the council would be entertaining ideas to change the scope of the settlement or of the CUP. As Jeff mentioned, there's a CUP that they purchased. There is a process within city rules that allows people to come to the Planning Commission and adjust the conditional use permit. And I can tell you as a city council member, I would not do anything to adjust that CUP in any way other than to make the closure of this issue more rapid and make sure that if anything is being done, if there was a vote, that it's being done with safety in mind. And if that delays the actual drilling, then so be it. But the idea here is we can't look to accept any modifications. The settlement agreement is pretty defining, and I support the agreement. As a chief of police, we could make no long-term goals. We always had this a question mark out there. You couldn't hire police officers, you couldn't hire firefighters, you couldn't hire public works people, because we didn't know what our future was. Now we know what our bottom line is and what our most risk is, and now it's important that we can make long-term decisions for the city, because we know best case scenario and worst case scenario, and we can now make those decisions. And it's important that we make sure that we get through that process so we get out from under the question mark.
Thanks, Greg. All right, that completes question number 4.